just crazy. Can it continue to get worse? The attacks on the judiciary, Luigi's being threatened with the death penalty. There were big protests around that this week. Epstein accuser, offs herself. And Crissy and Dave finally got together in Boston without me. Thank you guys for leaving me out, but that's okay. And Dave and I are going to have the tin can locked in a cage versus an airplane versus a train discussion as well this week. But let's start with the big news that happened on Friday morning at around 8 a.m. Central Time. Judge Hannah Dugan in Milwaukee, she's a Milwaukee Superior Court judge, was arrested in the courthouse by the feds. There was an illegal immigrant in her courtroom, and there was word that ICE was coming to arrest him. And she allegedly ushered him out a back door, so ICE couldn't arrest him, which, if true, is against the law. There's no question. But what is different here, and anybody who wants to put it as an isolated incident, well, the judge did something wrong, of course she got arrested. Yes, true. But what you're missing is the endless attacks on the judiciary. And this wasn't just an arrest of a judge. This was a public spectacle. The FBI director jumping on Twitter, Pam Bondi speaking about it. This genuinely is reminiscent of the 1930s, where you make a spectacle, or of a autocracy or a dictatorship, where any judge who dares to challenge you, you're going to make a public spectacle to dissuade others. And that's what's different here, is normally when a judge is arrested, when a high profile figure is arrested, anybody like that, when they're arrested, 99 times out of 100, law enforcement reaches out to them and or their attorney and says, hey, we need to arrest you, come on in. And it's a quiet thing. It's not a big public spectacle. And that's what happened here, was this spectacle, which is part of a pattern of the attacks on our judiciary. And the fundamentals, by the way, I always love we're a constitutional republic versus a democracy. Let me just end all of that now. Technically, we're a constitutional republic. Technically, we're a democracy. Technically, we're a democratic republic, because while we are a constitutional republic, we have free voting, which is a democracy, to elect the leaders who represent us. That's why it's a democratic republic. We have a representative set of bodies who we vote into power to represent us, but it's a democracy as well. These are bullshit arguments that are used as red herrings to distract from the arguments at hand. So I just want to point that out, because every time I bring this up, somebody is commenting about it. Don't ever comment about that with me again, because you're an idiot who's trying to sea lion. Or else, do you guys know what sea lioning is?
Like when I bark for Centarpios? Like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, sea lioning on the internet is a term from probably 10 or 15 years ago, where you come in, you distract from the argument at hand, and then you swim away.
Right.
And all it's done is to undermine the discussion. That's the purpose for it.
It's a great analogy, by the way. I love all the all the fishing analogies and stuff. You have red herrings, you have sea lions.
Yes.
I prefer those greatly to the straw man. I don't like the straw man as much. I'm much more nautical. So I'm glad thank you for that analogy. I'm glad I know it now.
So in logical fallacies, which I love, because that's logic, straw man is that you're not attacking the question at hand, you're attacking the person. And that's what a red herring does too. It's taking you off track. And sea lioning is just this very specific internet term around it. By the way, Dave, you're on the East Coast as a fisherman. Do you go out fishing?
I am a terrible fisherman. The last thing I hooked was my buddy Radomski's shoulder, and we had to run in off the boat and get it. We couldn't yank it out. We had to go to the emergency room and have it snapped off, pushed through. Yeah, I am terrible. I love it. I love being out in the water. I love being out on the boat. But yeah, it's embarrassing how bad.
You just like eating the food that they catch then. So you like the lobster roll.
Love jumping in. I have caught fish before, but I'm like a little child. I need help from, anybody on the boat with me.
There's nothing wrong with that, man. There are professionals who are happy to help with that stuff.
Oh, for sure. So, but I have reeled in a couple, but the last thing I reeled in was Radomski's right shoulder.
I like it. You still caught something.
I did. Better than nothing.
In order to navigate what's going on with the Trump administration, like the book I would recommend all people read is Dr. Ramani Dvarsala's book about narcissists. There's 9 traits to a narcissist. And in order to really understand like the tactics being used, you have to understand narcissism, because that is exactly what's at play, right? Like deflection, it's never my fault, it's not this is the enemy over here. Like Trump himself is obviously a grandiose narcissist.
And none of us here are psychologists to actually make the actual DSM-5 diagnosis. Yes.
I've said it, everyone. I fucking said it. He's a fucking narcissist. But just those like tactics of like red herring or fucking seal in the water or whatever the fuck you want to say, that's what it is, right? It's like it's never a direct response either. And the other thing that's really interesting, and Ethan, maybe you can correct me on this, but the majority of judges that they have disobeyed or are attacking currently, including Letitia James, right? They've now pressed charges against Letitia James for tax fraud or some bullshit. They've all been women, right?
Judge Boasberg, though, is a man. So, but you're right. It's majority women, and Trump has a real history of that, where especially journalists, right? He doesn't have a tendency to attack journalists as much when they're male. It seems to overwhelmingly be female journalists he does that to.
Yeah.
Yeah, real misogyny there.
Yeah, it's wild to watch. But the what's so interesting is like I was thinking about this when I was in the United States now and like leaving the United States and judges are getting arrested. I wondered, Ethan, like, how are you feeling about being a lawyer? Like when your entire job, your entire credential, everything is just like at this point up in the air. Like it's like, if this is what he does, like if judges are getting arrested and being disobeyed, like from there down, where do we go?
And law firms also.
And law
right?
firms, yeah.
All the law firms that have been attacked for just advocating for one cause or another at one point in the past.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and I appreciate you asking me that, Crissy, because I do think about this a lot. And it really is this. I don't fault other people for caving. I look at some of those big law firms and I do consider what they did as caving, but I don't fault them for that because they have big businesses with a lot of employees, and in their mind, they're justifying caving, as I'm using the term, because it's to protect their people, their business, etc. And so on the one hand, look, that's their decision. They're going to live with the moral consequence of it, etc. The flip side is, there are people who will stand up and say, I'm never going to give in. And I believe I said it on DW on Friday, talking about Judge Dugan, with these endless attacks on the judiciary. And then this statement by Donald Trump the other day, President Trump, saying, well, we can't have trials for everybody. And this really ties into what you're asking me, I believe.
Yeah.
And that is, what sets us apart from dictatorships and autocracies around the world, not just presently, but through history. And we go back, since Dave is in the birthplace of America, roughly speaking, we go back to one of the key things that the founding fathers discussed in the creation of our country is the idea that King George would arrest his political opponents without due process, right? And ex post facto laws, meaning I'm going to create a new law that I'm going to apply to actions that you took before I passed the law, and I'm going to arrest you on that. There's reasons our judicial system got set up the way it did. The Third Amendment, you can't stick your soldiers in my house without my permission, right?
Right.
These are all fundamental factors that were, for all these originalists, and you guys know how I feel about that pile of garbage, fake argument that was invented just to attack the liberals. So I'm getting no invitations to the Federalist Society on that basis, I'm sure, because of how public I've been to that about that. But And it's not that I wouldn't talk to them, because I would. And that's what you guys know about me too, is I'll talk to anybody. I don't care. I'll talk to anybody. And I think we need to be able to talk to people.
If they come and they want to talk to me, I'm going to tell them I fucking hate them. But yes, go ahead.
And I support you in that, Crissy.
I will talk to you, but...
And I'll talk to them, and I'll, like I always do. And you've known about that about me forever, which is I will always talk to people who disagree with me.
Yep.
And, or I disagree with, either way. But back to the point, which is no trials, attacking judges, this idea that we're going to not have due process, because that's what autocrats, dictators, kings do, is avoid due process. There are many, many attorneys, including, I believe, those many on the right, who, when we reach these places, it is not going to be where we just roll over. So to me, I don't worry about my job. I never have, as you know. Ask the program or whoever our boss was at KGO at the end. I don't care. And I'm not one of those people who just clings on to things for the sake of clinging on. I suffer the consequence. But many of us would rise up as lawyers at that point. And you've seen this in dictatorial type countries where it's the lawyers who start marching in the streets.
Which I'm going to push back. And I know that, man, you don't want to attack every law firm, but I will say they caved. Full stop. A lot of those law firms did. Yes, they have other employees and whatnot, but it reminds me a bit of the university thing, and it reminds me a bit also of Chuck Schumer with the shutting down the government and the Democratic Party.
I see Schumer as very different, but yes, keep going.
Well, we don't have to beat them. We just have to fight them, like the line from the start of Braveheart went.
Also, fuck Mel Gibson. I'm never watching that again, by the way. Fuck that guy.
I was listening on NPR this week, too, and I don't know the name exactly, but one of the big law firms that has stood up to the administration he was so forceful that, the question was asked, like, do you kind of understand where your, other firms, partners are coming from? And he was like, no, not at all. Like, what they're doing is so harmful to the judicial process. We've got to stand up to them. Same thing with the universities. Columbia caved, others caved. Who knew we were going to stand with freaking Harvard all of a sudden? Now, yes, they have an endowment where they can, they can absorb some of the financial impact, but good for them for standing up. And I just wish that the competing law firm partners had gotten together, the ones who usually argue against each other, and said, we're all going to band together on this. And I wish the university presidents had done the same thing. You got to fight them. Otherwise, they're going to keep pushing against you.
It's interesting that you bring that up that way, because I also agree with you, right? But where I am, I guess, just kind of in life is, you want to cave and do things. That's your choice, right?
Yeah,
you want to cave to fascist style attacks on our system. I mean, okay, I can't change you, and I do agree with you though. And the partner, or probably managing partner, or something from the big firm that you said you heard on NPR, is I think that they were wrong to cave too. But I'm not going to sit here and go where, again, what I still see is a fundamental failure of the left is we get so busy attacking and destroying each other because of disagreements that I am not going to spend time destroying. And I'm not saying that you are wanting to do that either, Dave or Crissy. But the point is that's where, when I disagree with somebody now, it's like, okay, you're over there and I don't agree with you, but I'm not going to spend my energy on destroying you, because there still is a huge contingent of the left that likes to do that, and the right feeds it every step of the way. If you spend 6 seconds critically analyzing what goes on social media, that is what it is. It's the right who fuels it, and we're so dumb and ignorant about it that we jump in. That was my point with, like, if you go and look at the comments that say, oh, we're a constitutional republic, every single time that's a right-winger, like I said, sea lioning. They're trying to fan the flames of internal dispute and to take us off the topic. The topic today is, do we have a democracy? Do we intend to continue to have a democracy? If yes, then Stop it with your bullshit over here with lies about what's happening in the Middle East because you're ignorant and gullible. And or, you know, oh, you don't support unions enough. I'm a huge union supporter, Dave, as you know. But at the same time, purity tests. I was having this conversation. One of my sisters is in town. And we were talking about this last night. The idea of purity tests is what destroys political movements every single fucking time and gets them to lose in the end. The left has purity tests. The right has purity tests. Our purity tests, we have many more.
That's right.
Because
you do.
We're a broader tent.
Yeah, and now speaking of that exact thing, and this is where we are. The DNC finds themselves exactly here again with David Hogg versus the DNC. And I'm just like, it's so frustrating because you can talk about it. Like I talked to Zephyr, a 16-year-old, sees something in a kid like David Hogg, and Zephyr's generation and your son's generation, they're the kids that have experienced school shooter drills. They're the kids who are likely to be in experience a school shooter. So to immediately have and I saw the tactic so very clearly, to immediately choose Donna Brazile to be the one to discredit David Hogg. We also know that Donna Brazile's done some shady ass fucking shit. Okay. Discrediting David Hogg. Now the attention for the Democrats is like you're pulling away from all the success that Bernie and AOC are having on the road, and people like coalescing around Gretchen Whitmer, and people having, you know, talking about the wins that everyone's having. You've got David Hogg, who has in some ways some very important points, the points that you and I and Dave have talked about the DNC, and as comes from a perspective that should not be shut down. He's a kid who survived a school shooting and went on to take responsibility and join politics, which is kind of what, like, I was just in Boston and Philadelphia. All these guys who experienced bullshit firsthand are the ones who then stepped up to become the leaders and the creators of our country. So if we're not encouraging people like who've experienced school shooting to have a place in our government, and then he steps up and says something, not that I agree with everything, and not that we want another white man, no offense to you guys, like with a loud mouth, but like the just immediacy of the DNC to shut David Hogg down and be like, you're going to get kicked out of your seat. I was disheartened by it. Yet again, I'm like, this is what the fucking Democrats do. They just eat themselves.
One of the polls this week that showed, you know, Trump with record low approval ratings for 100 days and whatnot. And everybody always hates Congress, but the Democrats poll even worse on just about everything, especially them having a message and standing up for us kind of thing. Like, right. Nobody knows what the F the Democratic Party stands for right now. You know, they do have all the factions that fight each other. And it's interesting historically that I feel like any party, but especially the Democrats, fare poorly when it's top heavy, hierarchical. They need the grassroots push heading into that's how you figure out who stands with the zeitgeist of the public
right
at a given moment in a given election. And every time the DNC makes plans from on high and tries to hang on to their own power, that's when we get blown out in elections. It happened in 2016. It happened in 2024. And it's going to happen again.
Obama was somebody that, had they done exactly what you wanted, Dave, and like, let us have a fucking primary this last time. Obama came through the primary system, right?
Anytime there's an open primary, they do well. When they have the next guy up or the whole party plan, not even platform, because they don't even have a platform now. No. I don't know what they're standing for.
No.
Yeah, I have no idea.
And people are like, who's the candidate? I'm like, will they even have a fucking party? Like, or we will even have an election? I have no fucking idea. But I wouldn't be able to, I mean, literally it's just they talk about it every day. And I'm like, I mean, are we voting in 2026? Are we going to get there when like they're arresting fucking judges and like people are just like too busy arguing amongst themselves?
It is very interesting when you look at what is going on. I can tell you what Dave's question was. What's the platform? Oh, I know it's women's rights, right? I do know that women have a right to bodily autonomy, and those. I think that's very, very important. And that's if they would ever fucking stick to a message, that's like a huge one that could really be I mean, 51% of the population is female. So, granted, some of Trump's strongest supporters are
women,
middle-aged white women, suburban white women.
I am essentially wearing the Kristi Noem outfit that is across the United States airports right now. It's like cap and hair extensions with red lipstick. I'm like, I'm in my Kristi Noem phase. I'm going to go fucking arrest everybody. But like that, the insipidness of the fact that the women are the front force of MAGA right now is pretty gnarly.
Oh, and there's the duality of what they're doing with that, which I don't know if I want to get into at this moment. But the problem is, great, and I saw Dave shake his head, and he's right. Women's bodily autonomy is a huge friggin' issue, but you still need men.
Yeah, I agree. We talked about that.
And what the fuck have the Democrats done for men in the last 8 to 10 years?
The bodily autonomy thing, it's kind of baked into the cake, right? That's nothing new. It's always been there. You know, it's always been
in our lifetimes.
It's always been the left, you know, the Democrats now, but the left in general, who have stood up for women's rights from, you know, suffragettes through Roe versus Wade, and on and on and on down the line. So that's already baked into the cake. If it were going to win elections, it would win every single one. I'm not trying to discount the importance of it. It's phenomenally important. But if that were going to win elections, it would win every single one, right? It's already there. So what's the issue at the moment, aside from saying we don't like Trump and not even doing that well?
Well, we lost the working class 20 years ago. George Bush started turning that.
It's back to that poll right now that said that it was being out of touch. Do they speak for me, and are they in touch with my needs? And as poorly as Trump is doing, with throwing tariffs around and with inflation still high,
trashing the economy,
and eggs are still high, and arresting, all that stuff, the electorate still thinks that silver spoon freaking con man, mogul billionaire allegedly is more in touch with their needs than allegedly the party of the people, which is it's effing crazy.
Swinging blue collar men from the left to the right, utilizing tactics about your actual manhood and manliness and what is it to be a man, wrapping it in Christianity, because again, like, you know, it's hard because I grew up in California, and again, I was back in New Orleans, and I'm seeing all these guys that are my neighbors who I love and adore that would literally do anything for me, that identify as like Republican Christian men. And the Christianity and the masculinity is a key part of that. It's not that they don't have a gay sister or that they wouldn't want me to have an abortion if I was raped. Like, you can have these conversations with these men, but it's the guys like Charlie Kirk and the guys like, the fucking dude with the mullet who's a moron that was from MTV's Road Rules, that guy, and fucking Joe Rogan, that are doing a better job working for the Republicans than the Democrats are. I'm a woman, of course I want everything for women's rights and LGBTQ rights, and it forces me to always, vote Democratic because my human rights are being violated if I don't. But the loss of men because there's like 3, I think, really good Democratic podcasting guys that are out there. Good Trouble is one of them. He's like hyper masculine. He's fucking cool. I think he's like from Boston or something. He sounds wicked smart. He's out there. And then there's the podcaster guy that my son loves that is out that, talks, I can't remember his name, but anyway, there's like 2 or 3 of them that are very good on message as manly men for the DNC, but we need like 1,000 of them. Right. And it's frustrating to constantly hear, this sucks so hard, and I don't want to like throw my gender under the thing, but it sucks to constantly hear that the Democrats can win with the blue wave or the women's wave, because it didn't work, and it doesn't keep working. And then you've also got within this, like, the Democrats have something that the Republicans really do not have, and that is a race situation as well, because Donna Brazil's entire argument against David Hogg was like, sit down, you fucking young white boy. We don't want to hear from you anymore. The black people and black women have worked so hard to have a platform in the DNC. And it's like, just because one white, again, that is to me doing the work for the Republicans for them. If you were to just say to David
100%.
Hogg, this is too far left, that's a different story. But the minute that it becomes identity politics and racial politics and gender politics, which is what liberals are supposedly not trying to get into, because in theory, that's what the Republicans' game was. It was anti-women, it was anti-people who are not Christian faith, it was anti-Jews, it was anti-people of color. They use those tactics, and now we use them, except we're using them on ourselves as liberals. And I'm just like, this is fucking wild. We are not going to win again. There's this Trump's rolling out 2028 hats. And you know, people are like rolling out 2028 Obama hats. I'm like, no, that's not it. Like, you guys are fucking morons. Like, I just like how are you the smarter group of these people? Like,
maybe you're not. I don't know.
Honestly, I don't know that we are, because I have thoughtful conversations with guys that I'm friends with that are Republican Christian men who are just like, I don't want to be emasculated. I want to have a right to my gun. And sure, I want my daughter to be able to get an abortion if she's raped, but this is more important to me. And these guys are saying what is so clearly to me the insecurities that they have. Like,
yes.
but I'm not a dick, so I'm not like, wow, nice fucking small dick energy. I don't say that, because I'm like, I want to hear what you have to say. Why does this interest you? Because you're friends with me, the most liberal, loudmouth bitch that you could fucking find. You're sitting at a table with me having a conversation. So I feel like maybe I am more like Ethan in that I will have the conversation. I just go like, so what is it? We could turn a few. Because there's the opportunity, and Dave and I have talked about this, like, there's the opportunity within our cousins or whoever. It's like, they want the abortions when they need the abortions. They have a gay brother, they got a gay son, they got a trans son, they have a trans daughter, everybody.
And it's worse than that, because doesn't Grindr crash every time there's a Republican
every
convention?
time the RNC comes to town.
It's like NIMBY conservatism, right?
Yes.
By the way, I want to pause though. I just had a little fantasy moment with the Obama 2028 hats. I'd be totally in favor of an ad hoc rolling back of presidential term limits to have 2028 be Trump versus Obama. Oh, get your popcorn ready. That would be fantastic.
First of all, we know Obama's like, fuck all y'all. Like, no one he's been so treated like shit post-election anyway. Him and Michelle are like, peace, we fucking did everything we could. Enjoy life. We've got hundreds of millions of dollars as black people. We did the work. Bye. But
I bet he'd run again. I think he's happy to be out. I bet he'd run again.
Hell no.
You know.
Why would he? Why
so.
the fuck would he? There's nothing in it. There's nothing in it. I would love, though, to your point, Dave, for us to run the Obama 2028 cap campaign just to literally fuck with Trump's psyche so hard, because that would fuck with him. Like, if we were out there all in blue 2028 Obama caps, that would literally fuck him up so fucking hard.
I want to make one more point back on the economy and Trump, and then we're going to talk about your hat for a second.
That's tanked.
So, you know, Dave brought up the polls that are showing. I think it's really important to note that, you know, the U.S. is not really the leader in shipping. You guys know that, right? It's been the Greeks, it's been the Norwegians, it's the Chinese. It's not the United States.
The Dutch.
And there was a report that I saw in the Sunday Times out of London. I love the Times. I don't know why. I just absolutely love it. I'm an Anglophile. And I really am.
King George.
I love England. I love Ireland. I love Scotland. You know, I love Wales.
Do you know what the Norwegians call Scottish people? Shipwreck Swedes.
That is hardcore, man. I love it.
my dad's a cardiologist, is a Greek immigrant and stuff like that, born in Greece, and he's like, all you Italians are is misplaced Greeks anyway.
Correct.
Oh my God.
So
And it's true. It's true.
It is.
And every shipping mogul that
Yes,
Paris
place
Hilton
Greeks.
dated was Greek, right? And Onassis was a fucking Greek mogul, shipping
Right,
mogul.
yeah.
Like, we've got this down.
But I love the jokes.
I love the
But
jokes.
it's really important to note that what they're saying and is not being reported, and I've seen in U.S. media. So Apollo,
They're coming to get
sorry,
you.
the sirens going by. Apollo Global Management manages about $700 billion of assets
Okay.
and has done some analysis of the Chinese shipping since the tariff war has begun. And the Torsten Slok, Apollo's chief economist, that's a very Scandinavian, Norwegian type
Fine
name,
Irish name. Yeah.
right? Torsten. And I grew up with a bunch of Norwegians in Minnesota there, you know,
course you
like
did.
Trygvies and Haken and Bjorns
Listen,
and
Rose
all
from
that
the
kind of
Golden
stuff.
Girls. She's Swedish from Minnesota.
Oh, that's right, Betty White.
Yeah.
Here's what he's saying: the container traffic from China to the United States is collapsing. Collapsing is the word being used. The consequence, quote, will be empty shelves in U.S. stores in a few weeks and COVID-like shortages for consumers and for firms using Chinese products as intermediate goods. I don't know what to say to you, MAGA supporters, but you know, again, I've made this point a million times. Yes, we needed to address China. Yes, we've been addressing China. No, the way we're doing it is wrong. And the White House, of course, has lied and, well, maybe not lied. I don't know. The veracity of their statement is deeply questionable, claiming that they've struck President Trump 200 deals on tariffs with foreign leaders. I believe the entire number of countries on planet Earth is 195.
But the Waltons went in there and were like, the Waltons, which run Walmart, like met with the White House and were like, are you good? Like, are we straight?
That shipping detail is horrifying because we knew that tariffs were going to push prices up, but it's like, did we learn nothing from the supply line fuck ups and shortages through COVID?
During COVID.
Yeah.
That's what sent the prices through the roof. When you have when shipping stalls, and it's even down to like the physical plants of it. It's like, where are the ships? Are there crews on them? Are they at anchors sitting there empty? To ramp that back up again that's what sent inflation through the roof after COVID. And here we have a slowing, like you're saying, of the shipping industry. And once that happens, it takes forever to ramp that back up again. Now you have now when people want to start buying stuff again, if the tariffs do go away at whatever point, and stocking shelves, whatever that may be, lumber, kids' toys, every last effing thing, everything costs more because now all the container ships are empty, sitting at anchor. They can't just be like filled in 1 second and shipped across the country. And so that sends the shipping costs through the roof again because you don't have the capacity ready to go.
I was working on some of that stuff during COVID with a client, right?
Okay.
We've talked about that a little bit. And I'll tell you, the fast ships is what they're called. Transit from the key ports in China to the United States, it takes 21 days. Transit time. The regular ships can take, it's 30 to 40 days.
Yep.
The fast ships are 21 days. So to Dave's point, it really becomes a genuine logistics issue. It's
Think about when that one big shipping container got stuck. It was, I think, during COVID, or it was definitely
and Suez, right? That gigantic.
Right. Remember how much impact that had on just even random shit that you have no idea was sitting in that tanker. I live at my house is on the Mississippi, so I see them come through, right? You all of a sudden, like, your view is dark and it's a wall and it's like a whole city on a
giant ship.
Comes through and you're like, holy shit. Like, that's everything. I mean, there's that particular one, a friend of ours had a cookbook coming out and his cookbook was on that fucking ship. It was like cookbooks and auto parts and toys and bullshit and supplies that you have no idea what's on those tankers and those containers. People are so dumb. And I just think, like, we're busy arguing over dumb shit while we just bury the lead of, like, if the Waltons are at the White House begging, they're huge Trump donors. They're literally there going, you don't fucking get it. And who are the people that shop at Walmart for the most part?
Blue collar folks.
It's literally everywhere, like you're saying.
Everywhere.
It's not, it's Walmart, it's People's Cookbooks, as we're pimping other podcasts, not, only watch us. That's it. Don't ever scream anything else.
I just couldn't even remember their names. Fuck them.
Former colleague of mine, Roman Mars, does 99% Invisible, fantastic podcast essentially on design and some architecture and stuff like that. But it's expanded beyond that. And they had one not long after COVID that was entitled an episode that was how the world ran out of everything.
Yeah.
And it gets into if there's no margin for error in the
shipping. We don't keep stockpiles like we used to. Right.
And so to artificially fuck up the shipping industry right now is effing insane. They learned absolutely nothing from COVID, and it's horrifying. Thanks for that news. Great.
Yep. So it matters because I don't know how much if Santarpio's uses Italian imported wheat, but I know here in LA we do really look for the health crowd, right? The Maha crowd out here, which is both left and right. We've talked about this where it's not one or the other. There are plenty of people here on the West Coast that are like, I want French or Irish butter.
Yep.
I want Italian wheat because people have a different reaction to Italian wheat than they do to American wheat. Americans and Europeans both talk about that.
Nobody in Europe is gluten intolerant. Like, it's just not a thing. I mean, they do sell gluten-free products, but literally only for people coming here.
Yes, it's for Americans. We've done something to our food supply. And so these become relevant, let alone the fact that Beijing has specifically restricted exports of rare earth minerals. I believe it was Tesla that came out and said, we're going to start having problems making our cars because we need these ingredients. And while the United States is a gigantic reservoir of rare earth minerals, it takes years to ramp up the mining and refining of these types of, ore products in the earth. And that's why, Trump pulled the strong arm on Ukraine with a minerals deal because they have them readily available.
If Ukraine wasn't valuable, it was just some dumb fucking country, why do you think we'd all be fighting over it?
Yeah, exactly.
You fucking morons. I swear to God.
Trump and his tariff deal is devastating a small African country that's encircled completely within South Africa called Lesotho.
Lesotho, yeah.
Right?
Which is one of the most peaceful countries in Africa, by the way.
But we don't care that we're destroying that country, literally destroying it with the tariffs. We'd spent decades trying to build it up and help them develop something, and then we're intentionally destroying it now with the tariffs. But nobody is talking about it because it's not Ukraine.
Not only the countries that we're destroying with the tariffs, the countries that we're destroying with the gutting of U.S. aid, like, that's our soft power that we really need, that we've really fucked up now. And China, if we're talking about China, their soft power just grows and grows and grows.
But hang on. I have something very interesting on that topic since we're talking about international geopolitics and the Chinese with the soft power. So the Chinese very intelligently, with foresight, although in the end looks like not so smart. But no, it was the right move with the information they had at hand. They're very, very intelligent that way. Very, very with foresight. And but what happened is they started building all these factories in Mexico, knowing that the tariffs were going to be building on China. So very smart. Hey, let's make it in Mexico. That's part of the North America free trade deal, right? And USMCA was done under the first Trump term, which we've talked about. But what's happened in Mexico is unlike places like Africa. The Chinese, so they've done this in Africa and other places a ton. They come in to build something. They start by saying, we're going to create all these jobs. And then they start to build it and go, well, your local people don't have the skills. I have to bring in some people from China. And they literally get rid of all the local workers. And it's all Chinese workers building everything, right?
Yes.
They've done that across Africa and other places.
They do that in Italy. That's
Right.
the big thing in Milan is all the factory workers are Chinese. Remember when COVID broke out?
Yes, I do remember that. And so they tried doing this in Mexico. God bless Mexico and the Mexican workers. I mean that.
I think they have the strongest work ethic of any country. Mexico is whatever they do, whether it's family at the center or the core, and work as a sense of pride. Nobody does that better than Mexico. Literally nobody.
Andrew Schultz, the comedian, has a great joke about that from a number of years ago. And his joke is,
you ever notice that shit? They always got these specials about the pyramids in Egypt. They're like, oh my God, the pyramids in Egypt. Who really built them? It wasn't the Egyptians, it wasn't the Jews, it was aliens. Aliens came down and they built these pyramids. This is how you know Mexicans are the best workers in history. There are also pyramids in Mexico. Nobody questions who built those. There is no hour-long History Channel special. Who built the pyramids in Mexico? Mexicans, motherfucker, that's who. There was a quinceañera and needed a tent to have that shit up by Saturday. Aliens probably came and they're like, we got it, you go help the Jews. This okay over here. Everything taken care of, aliens.
there's this multi-billion-dollar like industrial park that the Chinese have been building.
Oh.
They started by hiring some Mexican workers. Then they said, well, no, these are these are machines your workers don't know. And they got rid of all the Mexican workers. Well, Mexico is basically striking and blockading.
Good for them.
On the industrial
Good
park.
for them.
They're the first ones who are standing up, though, like legitimately being like, no. You're going to have to take your workers back home. You're going to have to use our workers if you're going to continue forward with this project.
And amazing what you can accomplish if you have a plan and solidarity.
What an idea, Dave.
Unlike the Democratic Party or those big law firms or the effing, let's put the Mexican workers in charge of the universities and the big law firms and the Democratic Party.
Well, they won't put up with all that protest bullshit, by the way, that keeps happening.
Yeah.
They don't have time for protests. They're too busy working, trying to make stuff happen and provide for their families. That's
right.
True working class American mentality is literally like, I don't got time for your bullshit protests. I got mouths to feed. I've got work to do.
But that's maybe a platform that the Democrats need to get a fucking hold of, because it's really wild that the working class of America is people of color. Right. That's the larger growth, right? Is people of color are the working class people, right? Because even that large set of white working class people that can't work in,
it's not growing.
It's not growing, right? They're getting old and they don't want to be retrained. That was half the problem in places like Ohio and West Virginia and stuff. Those guys that were mining and shit like that, they are not going to get retrained. And there's more people, more Latinos now that are going up to Alaska to get trained on Dutch Harbor to do all the bullshit work up there, that because they're like, we're used to doing seasonal work. We don't give a fuck. That's $36 an hour for seasonal work doing bullshit in Alaska. They don't care. They just want to work. And the Republicans get away with bullshit saying that, people of color just want to suck off the system.
I know, it's literally.
I'm literally just like, who the fuck is working? And then Donald Trump wants to give us $5,000 for a baby bonus. Kiss my
One of the dumbest
fucking
things ever.
ass. It's not Australia, bitch. That's what they do in Australia. It's like you just ripped an idea you saw on a fucking headline. They give you a $5,000 baby bonus in Australia because they have a population problem, right? Because their country is as big as the US with a fucking desert in the middle that nobody can live on. And it's too expensive to live anywhere, but they have socialized medicine. So the extra $5,000, those people spend it on a house. They invest it back into the economy. They're not fucking morons.
Well, and Melbourne has is one of the highest cost cities on earth. Melbourne, and Sydney's not far behind.
Correct. It is more expensive. I mean, like when you look at what homes cost in Melbourne and Sydney, it's like it blows my mind. And I lived in both those cities, right? But to give a $5,000 baby bonus is fucking hilarious. And to think that you're going to have a population boom off of that. Honestly, go to any woman. And by the way, the women that you accuse of being baby making machines, they that feed off the system in the South, the black women you love to target, it costs $30,000 to have a child, like just to even get out of the fucking hospital. So $5,000. What? I'm sorry. What does this cover? What are we doing? What happens with that?
Oh, and by the way, we're going to cut off all aid after the child is born.
Right.
That's the other. Right. That's the whole hypocrisy of the right on all of these issues is pro-life, except for once they're ex utero. Now we're not pro-life at all. Fuck you. You're on your own, kid.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
You can't get lunch at school. You can't get, healthy families programs. You're not going to get, SNAP money.
By the way, free school lunches that really rolled out during COVID. Actually, California got them going first. But the idea that you feed every kid, regardless of income, a school lunch.
Couldn't be more Christian, by the way.
But it also mathematically, economically, all of the data shows how incredibly beneficial it is. It's that back to that thing of keeping the money gets spent five times over in the economy,
which is SNAP,
because they're focused on local farmers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But also because everybody is on a level playing field for school lunch. Then nobody's embarrassed. I remember that when I was a kid, that there were kids on food aid, and they were literally embarrassed because you'd have to say it out loud that, oh no, I have the subsidy. Oh, I'm sorry, you're out of subsidy right now. You're not gonna be able to eat.
Yeah.
Which is fucked in the head. School performance, education is improved so greatly by proper nutrition.
Not to date ourselves, but the school lunches weren't that expensive. I even remember thinking like, oh man, that kid doesn't have $1.25.
No, they don't.
Entire lunch, and it was true, but it was shocking. And it was all the kids would go up to the front of the class and bring their lunch money for the day, except for the kids who were on the special assistance program. It was phenomenally embarrassing and divisive, And even as a kid who could pay $1.25, I didn't like it. I was like, this is effing weird. Why every morning do we do this charade? It was terrible. Yeah, free lunches.
Yeah, you're abusing the kids.
Especially if Santarpio's caters them. I'll go back to school in East Boston.
I will become an elementary school teacher if they're serving
in East Boston. That's right.
Okay, so Santarpio's, let's just get to it. We
get to
it. There we go.
Okay. So after what has this been, a decade of hype, Ethan?
A lot of hype.
A lot of hype.
Oh yeah, it's been a decade. Almost a decade. Not quite, but almost a decade.
I got to see Dave's sweet face in the lobby of the Revere Hotel in Boston, and then we walked. Dave? We walked for almost 8 hours that day, pretty much 6 hours across Boston.
Yeah, we put in some miles. Yeah.
We went to Fenway, which was amazing, and it's so funny because I'd been in Boston already almost a week by the time I saw Dave, but I think Zephyr and I, my son, both felt that after that day with Dave, we really had seen Boston, and that was a really interesting, because I think that you can get in, and as a traveler, you can get in there and you're kind of like, you see all the things, right? We did the tea party tour. Zephyr threw the fucking tea into the ocean on the ship.
Why would you waste good tea?
I mean, it was just a plastic box, but let's just see. We did the reenactment and we saw a lot of stuff, but when Dave drove up to Santarpio's and I saw that neighborhood, and then I walk in and it's like, it is like you walked into a Ben Affleck film where immediately everyone's talking to you, and then the waitress is your new best friend, and about her daughter going to college immediately. It was just I was like, part of me was like, is this fucking staged? Did Dave stage this experience for us after 10 fucking years? He put everybody in place and was like, all right, we're coming in. We're coming in.
The East Boston Truman Show or something.
It was so weird. And I could see Zephyr and I are just like, these people are too authentically authentic. And you walk into Santarpio's and it's the same old guy who's probably been there for 40 years, grilling the sausages, hey, yeah, get a seat. The ladies will help you. You're just, and the neighborhood itself is great. It's by a freeway ramp. It's much more humble than, we were staying in Back Bay in Boston. So everything is beautiful and all the colleges are over there. And it was just so, I was pretty sure Ben Affleck was down the road filming something.
2 questions for you, though. I actually have 3 questions. One, did you go to the Robin Williams bench?
No, but Dave pointed it out.
We could see it from where we were.
But you were like, "Oh, that's the Good Will Hunting, Robin Williams thing there." I do remember that.
They were over there.
They were over there, which is much more of a Boston tour, by the way.
He left us in 2014, and the city of Boston beautifully designated that as a memorial in his honor.
Right.
It was very cold, by the way, Ethan. I brought a snowstorm with me to Boston, which was like unseasonal, so it was fucking freezing when we were there. I was like, I bought gloves.
You got a full range of 30 degrees to 70 degrees.
That was true. And so, guess what's your other questions? You've got 2 more.
I do. So I'm going to save the Santarpios for last. When you went to Fenway Park, and I'm doing this as a little jab at Dave now for a second, did you bring up Bill Buckner?
I didn't do it.
We would have been kicked out if your next question's about pineapple on pizza. That's not a good thing.
So for people who don't know, Buckner, it was a Mets Red Sox World
86
Series.
World
Series.
Series,
Went under Buckner's glove to lose the game.
through his legs right through the
There's a lot of Dave, what was the place that we went to, the bar that you can see the park? So there's this cool public bar where you can go in, and during the day the gates open, so you're you're on the field, you're at field level looking at it.
Yeah, that was a relatively recent addition to this ancient ballpark, right? Fenway built in 1912, and I have issues with the current ownership, but they have done a lot of great things, especially rehabbing the ballpark. So they actually built a bar that's adjacent to the Green Monster, kind of underneath the center field bleachers, that has a garage door that used to be one of the grounds crew garage doors that they turned into a bar and restaurant. It's where you can sit there and see the entire field. You're at field level, and
cool.
You can see the entire park, because there wasn't a game that day, so it was a nice way to go.
Question number 3. Crissy, I need your honest review of Santarpios, first by telling me what kind of pizza you got.
Okay, so you have to think like Santarpios is more like, in terms of style, it's more New Haven, Connecticut, like that. Like, because if we're talking about pizzas, there's many styles. There's like the big floppy New York slice, right? Like they're much bigger.
They kind of curl, right?
Yeah, but it's like super, super, super thin, but like floppy and large. And then you've got like a more standard style, like I think across America, like what you would get a pie at like any of the big chains, right? But that isn't even it. Like Santarpios, they have like a special pie. It's reminiscent of like a standard size, more of a Neapolitan size, in that you're not getting a large, extra large, but they use like a sourdough type crust, so it doesn't taste like Neapolitan pizza, right? And then it's covered in the toppings in the way that a true Italian pizza would never be, because the glory in eating the Santarpios is that everything is like melted and meshed into. I think what they do that I will admit that is better than my pizza place in San Francisco, Gaspari's, has been around just as long as Santarpios. But anyway,
Gaspari's is great. I love Gaspari's.
Gaspari's is big, giant, thick. It's like big, giant, floppy pizza, done by Sicilians, and this is different. But what Santarpios and I think that New Haven thing get right, it's almost just like every ratio is correct. Because in the thin part in the middle, it's thin enough and yummy enough and floppy enough to fold and get it in there, but nothing is too big. Like, you know, when you get a big New York thing and it's like the piece is like the size of an 8x11 piece of paper, and you're like, that's not the experience. This is a better slices. Everything is like they figured out the science of pizza. So you get a good crust, it's got some color on it, it's nice and chewy, but the center is floppy. And Santarpios is really cute because they still do like a old-fashioned like sausage and peppers. Like you get the sausage and peppers first before the meal. And they had anchovies on the pizza. Like they still, like, I don't even think they've ever updated their menu since like the late 70s, because it just looks like the same menu that they would have just been tossing on the table since the 70s.
No pineapple to be found.
It wasn't a single pineapple in the place.
That's too bad. Knocks it down a notch.
The sauce was delicious, right? Like,
but so describe it, because there's some that are sweeter and some that are more savory, spicy, right?
Well, it would be hard to know because when we got ours, we put spicy shit all over it. Like, so we
Oh,
like, I mean, actually, no. The sauce on the cheese pizza was a little bit sweeter.
okay.
It's like, if you go to Santarpio's, you've got to get a cheese as like your baseline standard to taste it. Because what you want to do at Santarpio's is they have all these, they have the amazing, like old school, like put all the Italian sausage and anchovies and spicy shit, all that you can on this pizza. But the cheese, I think Zephyr maybe even liked the cheese the most because it's just beautifully sweet and perfect. Like it's the perfect cheese pizza, honestly. I give him credit there as much as it hurts me to like validate Dave because we've been in this fight for 10 years now.
You can validate me. It's okay.
No, I validate you, Dave. It was like the perfect cheese pizza. I loved whatever it was that we got that had all the hot peppers and sausages and then anchovies on it. And I was like, fuck yeah. Like they were just unashamedly like, yeah, it's got anchovies. And like even Dave was like, but like which half? Because we got like the half and half. I thought it was perfect. I think that's what they've done. I think that style of pizza that Santarpio's does, I think better than most probably is it's just like a perfect slice. Right? The proportions, everything. And you get a little bit of, I really like it when the crust gets a little bit of a burn on it in some parts.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's so good.
It's important.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I just thought the experience of it, like, we need to do a show, we need to do a podcast app from Santarpio's because Ethan, it's like the waitresses and the people that are going in there, and there was kids having a fucking base post, like, they were either having a birthday party or like, but it was like being in Stranger Things on the set where everything is 80s. You know what I mean? Like it felt like that. It was like but like time stopped somewhere in Santarpia. So like when you walk into a time warp and it's like a very welcomed, soda in the plastic cups that comes from a fountain, kids having a birthday party, locals getting what they always get, the waitresses knowing that, the waitress telling you where kids going to college and all her fears and everything. You're just like, and then she just at one point, the waitress just sat down with Zephyr and Dave. She just sat down at the table. I was like,
literally the only thing that's been updated since the 80s in there is they had to add some framed Tom Brady pictures.
Oh.
So, they always had Larry Bird and Marvelous Marvin Hagler. And so it's a big boxing area in that neck of the woods also, but they obviously had to add the Red Sox and Patriots heroes from the 2000s. That's the only update.
It's something everyone should do, and they should never, ever change how they are there. They should never make it cool.
Oh, don't worry. They won't. Those people do not change. You're lucky they changed their shirt on occasion.
Things go viral, and I've seen Santarpio's on some of those like cool guy food blogs and stuff like that, so I was a little bit like, oh, shit. And I went to Angelo's Philly cheesesteaks when I was in Philly, and they've definitely updated it so that it works for all the food nerds that, there's a line now and you get a text message. It's still the same food, but the way they've had to, Santarpio's wouldn't even bother. Like they do not care. If you were in a line, you're in a line. Like, it's like they couldn't give a flying fuck. And that was like the charm of it all.
I will say the one thing that I felt that disappointed me was, this was just in the last couple of years, there was one other update that I just remembered that Crissy didn't get. They did add a computer system. There's no text system or anything like that, but they actually have a computer printout of the bill and stuff. It used to be literally
handwritten,
a piece of scratch paper, not even like a guest check, just like a notepad like that. And you couldn't read any of their writing. You could barely read what the total was at the bottom. The prices were different every time. They're doing the math with the tax, and then just scribbled in a sheet of paper.
Damn it.
With, I think that's $59.65 and cash only until a couple of years ago. That was, and I wish they.
That's probably when they had to update was the computer to take credit cards. Yeah.
At some point, they decided that they wanted to take credit cards, but yeah, they were cash only for 100 and.
Well, cash only has its share of issues, right? I mean,
it does for sure, but it was charming for a long time.
Of course. That was always my frustration in Santa Cruz living there, was like, how many places are cash only? What? I don't carry cash. It's not safe.
No.
It's I lose my money. And better yet, if I'm surfing, where am I keeping the cash? In that little pouch in my wetsuit? It's anyway, I love it. I'm so glad, and I'm so sorry I wasn't there.
I know it. We
next
got to
time.
go back. It was missing Ethan. It was missing. It was missing you jiving with the waitress. You would have stayed there all night.
Did I ever tell you one of the most unsuspecting best pizzas I ever had was, though? I don't think we had this conversation because it was really only about 2 years ago, I think. Haifa, Israel.
Oh, I would believe that.
I am dead serious. They made an Italian, and that was their whole point, was everything was from Italy.
Yep.
It was some Italian, whatever, recipe, blah, blah, blah. Honest to God, it was one of the best pizzas I've ever had in my entire life. Was down wherever that hipster neighborhood was in Haifa.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, they used Italian, whatever. I mean, it was so fresh. It was so delicious. It was light, but not so light that you're like hungry. You know what I mean? It was just like light to eat. It had the perfect crisp with it. And, but yeah, it was like this very specially sourced olive oil from this one specific place in Italy. And they drizzled it with the olive oil, and it was just like, oh my, this is like one of the best things I've ever had.
Not entirely surprising, right? With all the Mediterranean connections and stuff like that,
But I just didn't think,
Yeah. No, it wouldn't be my first guess.
The Italians have done a very good job. I think, like, in the last 20 years, like in Paris, you can get, I mean, the guy that wins the Neapolitan, the Naples pizza contest every year, his shop is a block from my house, right? Like, so the Italians have done a very good job in that exporting of pizza, like, but you buy the oven, you learn the thing, you go to the school. They've done it with gelato too, where you go to the gelato school in Bologna and then you get your credential and you can open up a shop.
If you're going to bring up gelato in Italy, one of my clients, independent filmmaker, former like Madison Avenue ad exec, really, really famous.
Okay.
He and I did all the contracts and stuff, right? So they filmed in Italy a documentary about this exceedingly famous Italian gelato maker.
Okay.
In a little town called good God, I can't even pronounce it.
It's every town.
And
something.
Gingiano or something, what I can't, and it's not that I'm trying to butcher. It's just that it's not a kind of word that I ever speak. You know what I mean? And they got a famous Italian composer to like make the soundtrack for this documentary.
Oh my God.
Oh, cool.
And it's already won a couple of awards at some film festivals. And I believe, I don't know that it's been announced, but anyway, you'll be able to see it soon. And it's incredible. I was only pissed. I'm like, why didn't you have to bring your lawyer for the world premiere in San whatever, Italy?
Well, now you need to find out. I need to know.
Yeah, I'll have to share that with you guys. I just need to know exactly what I can share publicly yet.
It's interesting. Like, that's the only thing Italians have seemingly the mafia and like basically like with all of their I think they call it DOP there, right, Dave? Like, it's like, well, it depends on where you are, but DOP is like the Directory of Parma. So like, unless the Parma ham comes from Parma and has the DOP stamp, like they've done a great job of all of that. I wish they didn't have a fascist racist government, but like they've done
Don't
well.
worry, the government will change in about 10 minutes.
It always does.
347 governments since
the end of World War II.
But Maloney is so like MAGA adjacent. It's like a attractive female with like with a fascist mantra.
I mean, it's really hard to talk about Italian politics because it's just been a complete
shit show.
Also, all of us would like to live, so we don't want to.
Exactly. It's like, every time I see that article, it's like, oh, you can buy it for however many euro, really low number. You can go to Italy, and I was like, yes.
Until somebody shows up and says, "Get off this land. This belongs to my grandfather." Yeah.
Right.
Or imagine the dollar piazza you buy that you then have to, as part of the agreement, renovate.
Spend $500,000.
Yeah, and you don't speak Italian, and you don't know people there, and you're just trying to do deals with the plumber. You don't know shit. Yeah. Good luck. Enjoy your fucking. You ever see The Money Pit with Chevy Chase? Boom, that's you, but in Italy.
No, that was Tom Hanks.
Oh, sorry, excuse me, Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks
Yes.
and Terry Garr. Was it Terry Garr?
Yes, I think it was.
Somebody else. No.
Was it Terry
Anyway,
Garr?
it was very
I don't know.
80s. It was like some guy with a curly haircut and a blonde chick from the 80s. But anyway, Money Pit. But imagine you don't speak the language and you're dealing with mafia. Enjoy that. That's your dream.
I mean, you know, if you know that going in, you just have to strike the right deal at the beginning then with the right person in town, right, Dave?
Oh yeah, you would want a guide of some
Yes.
a guide and a guy. You gotta have a guy. I got a guy who knows
have
a
a
guy.
guy on the
You need a
inside.
guy.
But you hire the right guy at the beginning and pay him the right amount that he needs. And
by the way, unlike Santarpio's now, you for sure need to bring cash.
Correct.
100%. 100%. So do they like euros in Italy, or is there some other currency they prefer?
I'm not sure. I haven't been there
Gold
in
bullion?
a while to the countryside like that. I've been in the cities, but yeah, it was still the lira when I was there. So you'd have
that's
have grease pockets with millions. I was a millionaire.
Yes.
You'd have grease pockets with millions and millions, literally millions
$37
lira in cash on me at one point or another.
Well, maybe that's our trip is Italy then. Italy and Greece.
Let's do it.
Sure. My people.
And I mean, if we're going to do Italy and Greece, then we have to do Israel, and we get the little, you know,
It's
all
our
our
people.
little heritages
Yeah.
in. And
Yeah.
I think that sounds great. And we'll try pizza in every place. Does Greece has pizza, right?
Of course, yeah.
They do. I mean,
I don't know. I'm
They
literally
do.
speaking ignorantly, right? I don't know. I'm asking genuinely.
Athens actually has a couple pretty good pizza spots, and we could do it just for it would be so fucked up of us to say that we had our favorite pizza in Greece. Like, we can't do that. We'll be murdered. We will not survive the trip home.
Why would that? Why?
The
would kill
Italians
us?
would come for us. The Italians would find out, and they would come for us. So whatever we say, we still have to say the best place we ate was somewhere in Italy.
Well, I love it, you guys. Anyhow, we'll catch up next week. And remember, if you're enjoying the show, please share it with everyone you know. Should Be a Morning Show is our Instagram and social handles. Shouldbeamorningshow.com. But we need you to share with everybody. We appreciate it so much. Love you guys, Dave and Crissy. Appreciate all of you listening, and we'll talk to you next week.
Like when I bark for Santarpios, art, like that.
Yes.